So when doing spotlights of the individual buildings that make up Lego City, obviously one that needs to be talked about is the hotel, which I've named the Crown on State, State being the street that it runs along. Um, but before I do that, I just top of mind, I have a reflection. I was emailing an old colleague. He's watched the first video I put out about Lego City, and he reminded me about a critique that he had about Lego conventions, and particularly Lego City layouts that he sees at Lego conventions, and that is that often you see a lot of modular buildings. You know, these official sets that Lego releases for adult fans. You see a lot of modular buildings kind of lined up one after another, and that composes the majority of the layout. And you'll see here I don't have any modulars. And I have two reflections on that, really, that I'll say before I get into the details of Crown on State. And that is that, for one, the scale that I wanted to build in is slightly smaller than the modular buildings. The modular buildings, I think, allow for more interiors than what you see in my city. So that is a downside to the scale that I use. And I did conceive of this scale, and the fire station, Firehouse 101, was built before the modular series was released in 2009. So it's the oldest building that I've designed and is here in Lego City. So you can see I've been working on Lego City for quite a few years, even decades now. Anyway, the scale is slightly smaller, and I had already established it. And that allows me to build architecture that is taller than what I could do if I adopted the modular scale 1-to-1. These, like, to do a Gothic revival or an Art Deco building, like you see here, in modular scale would require the building to be, even with forced perspective, it would require the building to be maybe, I don't know, 1.5 times as tall or 2 times as tall. You can imagine if you put a modular building next to the Crown on State here, the lower floors, which give the impression of a certain height, would just be too low. The modular buildings would go higher than that little balcony right there in many cases, and that just feels wrong, right? That balcony is supposed to be taller than the height you would find in many modular buildings. So that's one thing. The other thing that I want to comment on is just the phenomenon of Lego City building. Obviously, there are many ways to build Lego, endless ways to build Lego, and city building is just one of them. And as a city builder myself, I think I understand some of the very phenomenal experiences which kind of trigger wanting to build Lego City, and which characterize Lego City building. And that is that you want the city. You don't want little details as much as you want to see the city. And of course, modular structure, the modular product line offers you a way to build up that city very quickly and get to that city state that you're looking for. So while building with Lego, it requires you to get into the details. Every little brick has to be placed somewhere. You have to worry about detail, right? You do. So, but to do that and to build up a Lego city, it takes a long time. And for someone who's interested in Lego City building, again, with the primary objective of having the city feel more than anything else, the modulars do provide a way for you to get there quickly instead of having to place every little brick yourself. And I do think that kind of explains why you see a lot of modulars stacked up or rode up next to each other at a Lego convention. And that is just because that city feel is supposed to be the primary experience that one has while viewing that Lego creation. It's not the details. It's not anything about the builder's creativity or lack of creativity about the city. It really, the primary thing to view in Lego City building is the experience of the city, even at the cost of designing things originally for yourself or designing little details for yourself. So I don't know. For me, that's very explanatory of the phenomenon of Lego city building, and explains why probably the modular product line is a good one for Lego, because it helps you get there faster, right? So anyway, let's get to the Crown on State. This second tallest building of my Lego city, the heaviest piece count wise. I think there are over 10,000 elements in this building, and there may be 11,000. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I've made all the calculations. I've built them digitally, and the program calculates it all for me. So that's some of the stats. I also keep track of the building heights on these. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how tall this building is. Maybe something like 90 bricks tall. Of course, it's measured in bricks, right? It needs to be measured in bricks, or plates if you wanted to multiply those numbers by 3. It's somewhere around 90 bricks tall. Crown on State must be about 110 bricks tall. Yeah. What's impressive about this building over the others is that because the footprint of the building is so large, 2 base plates, 2 full 32 by 32 base plates, the footprint is massive, and you can see that the building almost goes from one side to the other of those base plates in comparison to, for example, the Metropolitan Park Tower, where the footprint is much smaller. You can see here the base plate line right here, so much smaller. So this building gives room for a lot of interior details. And that is also appropriate for the style of architecture that it was built in. In another video I explained, but I'll do it again, is that this is an Art Deco building built in the 1930s, we would say. And during that period of architecture, city within city ideas were quite popular. So this building is not just a building, but it's meant to have many features inside of it, which would allow people to experience this building as its own unique kind of environment. There's the city, but then there's also this. So this hotel tower here would probably be filled with the hotel rooms. The back section here is, I imagine, a convention hall. And there's a little causeway connecting the two on the second floor. So you would imagine the elevator goes up that far, and beyond that, the 2 buildings then become distinct. And of course, on the first floor, there's many shops. And fittingly, there's a reception desk. There is a kind of a lobby waiting area. There's an exotic garden inside. And also a coffee cart. There is a bookstore which features architecture books and miniature, and even, I'll tease it, miniatures of many of the buildings. So there's a miniature of the Metropolitan Park Tower, there's a miniature of Firehouse 101, and a miniature of the Crown on State inside the architecture bookstore. There's also a jeweler. I imagine that this convention hall is used for weddings often, so it makes sense that there is a jewelry and ring shop inside the building. I'm going to cut this video here. I think already it's getting long. I haven't even gotten to many of the details. But to make the file size not too big, I'm going to cut that and resume another video. So here we are. I will also showcase some of the minifigures that I imagine would accompany this building. If it was an official Lego product, if it was designed as a set, who are the characters who help tell the story of this building in the marketing campaign, so to speak. So you obviously have a very full and robust staff of uniformed hotel workers of varying ages, genders, and so forth. I think they look like a nice bunch. You maybe want to pick out 1 or 2 and understand who the luggage boy is and who the manager is and so forth, and you kind of already start to tell those stories just with the face and the hair and the hats, right? Their bodies are all the same. Just subtle details. Already your mind starts filling in stories about who these characters are, how you would encounter them inside the hotel, and what their role is, right? Obviously, architecture is a big deal in Lego City. So you have tourists coming from outside the city who are eager to take pictures and take tours and see all the sights in the city of all the architecture. So that's who these two characters represent. There is a coffee cart on the inside. So you have a barista. She's an older woman, which for some reason that won't focus. There's not a lot of light in this corner of the room. Sorry about that. But she's an older woman. It contrasts to the young barista that you find in the Metropolitan Park Tower, just to give these baristas some variety. And here is the jeweler character. He's not inside the building. I've just put many of the figures that go with this building on the outside here, as you can see. And he's got his little handheld keypad, payment pad for swiping credit cards and stuff. There's not a lot of room in the jeweler, as you'll see, so I needed to take as many things out and put them all kind of onto the figures as possible. And that was one thing that could go, a cash register. You could just hold the credit card swiper, right? And back here you have the carts for luggage. I don't have any luggage in here, but you can imagine the folded briefcase and even the foldable luggage element that Lego has released would fit in there fine. These wheels don't actually move. Those are just plates with a hollow stud and a bar stuck through them in order to get that compact feeling. There is a plate where you can attach that skateboard wheel to it, but the height just gets too high and the proportions are all wrong for me, so those wheels just worked better. Or those plates worked better for wheels. I do have some custom decorations on this one. I have developed those a long time ago while I worked at Lego. So unlike the other areas of Lego City, which still need to be stickered, there are a few stickers. These two obviously feature some. And so what I'll do now, let me just move these minifigures out of the way. Sorry, you have to just see nothing for a moment here. But I need to swing the building around, right? So you can see what it's looking like on the other side. Oh, I hear something has fallen over. Yeah, it looks like the waiter. So here is the reverse side. There's a nice patio. Let me just fix that waiter if he comes up easy so that you can enjoy. Yeah, okay. So there's a patio outside the convention center. That would make sense, right? Bar is not on the inside of the building, though. The bar sits kind of here in the back. You can see some napkins. There's a little, again, a little keypad for paying, and wine and beer to be served. I don't know why the waiter's coming that direction. He should be sitting over here delivering the drinks from there, shouldn't he? Yeah, he should. So, of course, yeah, this is a hotel. So, of course, you have some people who can afford to travel, some more people with money staying here. So some of the richer looking minifigures you will see populating this building. And these two girls look very trendy, right? I mean, you would not normally think. Let me just pull her out of here. I love this girl. You would normally not see that torso on a woman, but when you put her in there with that red lipstick and this skater cut, she becomes someone who's very trendy, right? And she fits this as a collectible minifigure trendsetter, I think they call her on Bricklink. So these two girls really become like fashionistas, right? Trendsetters. That's the type of person you would expect to find at the hotel. So, yeah, and then you've got this maybe cherry blossom type tree. This is the same type of tree that I did on the arcade building. It's just flower stems in here, I think 5 of them on a brick that has studs on each side and 1 stud on the top. You can just stick those stems in there, and then just put these leaves and flowers around the outside. Makes a great circular tree design. So that is the exterior. There is an interesting detail here. I like to build pretty simply. I think, again, as I've said in a lot of other videos, that there is something to simplicity and geometry and a high level of abstraction going on in Lego. And as part of that design aesthetic, I try not to build too difficult. I know there is a trend in the AFOL community to kind of almost hide the brickiness of Lego as you're building. As you build creations that are 10,000 pieces, you can do that. You can sculpt them in such a way. It's almost like sculpting with clay or sculpting with Lego bricks, right? And in doing so, you kind of hide the geometries of Lego. But for me, I try to build it simply, and I try to retain an element of that abstraction that the brick has naturally occurring in it. But I say all that to point out an exception. Here you can see I've done these stained glass windows. And there are cheese slopes that face one another. And that's just done by building in such a way that you can do some studs not on top at the top, and those then just point downward. It's actually quite easily done. It's not a difficult technique. Yet, it is not something you'd find in a Lego set for 5-year-olds. It's too complicated for that, and the build is too fragile unless you have the articulate hands of an adult, I think, the motor skills of an adult. So this building also represents some of the most advanced building techniques probably in Lego City, and it's principally characterized by that studs not on top, those two cheese slopes, as they're called, facing each other. So I'm going to stop this video here and remove some of the top layers so that we can see some of the detailing on the inside. I hope the light permits us to do that. Let's find out. Okay, so I've now pulled off the top layers of the hotel. And before I go inside there, I've already pulled out some details. And it's these, the miniature versions of some of the buildings in Lego City that are in the architecture enthusiast bookstore. I've pulled those out so we can look at them, because it wouldn't do any justice just to look at them from above. So you can see here is the crown on state itself with its golden crown. And here you see the Metropolitan Park Tower with the statue and some trees at its foot, giving where the building gets its name. I can see this tile is crooked here. I don't like that. Did I straighten it? Pretty much. And then over here you see Firehouse 101 near the checkout and above some one of the bookshelves. So these I think are super cute, and of course they're not perfect. There's way more gold at the top of this building, at this version of this, than there is in the real building. But it's a good enough. I think anyone who saw this collection and had seen my city, they would understand what I've tried to do and what I've done. So in as much as you can make that connection, I think that it's a good attempt here. And especially for this scale, you know, what can you really expect? One thing I noticed while building this, I want to point this out. This is weird because someone who knows Lego geometry better than me is only a Lego graphic designer and not a Lego builder professionally. I never really understood. I tried to put these two headlight bricks where the studs faced each other so that you would have this opening on both sides. And so that sorry, it's hazy. The lighting is not good on this side of the room. And so that the facades were flush. That would make sense to me, right? But those two studs actually go further than the base of the brick. And so you have to stack them like this so that the sideways stud fits into the back of the other one. I didn't know that. And why would that be the case? That stud should be flush with that foot, I would think. I guess there's not enough clutch power otherwise or something. Or maybe it's just the bricks I'm working with. But the ones I've tried, they don't work how I would expect, how they look like they should be designed. So that's a question. Maybe you can answer it for me. So there are the mini builds of Lego City. A few buildings. I could do more, but there's just not enough room. You know, there's not enough room inside these. And this door here goes into the bookstore, which is here, and it's very dark in this corner of the room. You can see there's more bookshelves and so forth. But those buildings go in there and kind of give it some contrast. And you can see the white building. The white really becomes a contrast against that dark blue and black walls. So you can see something in there. It's not that it's just a, gee, there it looks like a black hole, right? Anyway, here, let's start at the entrance, one of the entrances. You have double rotating doors. Here, you can see how these spin. Well, maybe you can't see, my fingers are too fat. You can see how these spin. And so those are two revolving doors that enter into the hotel, which then once you're in, you can either shop at the bookstore or you can enter into a corridor, which is going to lead you through to the reception desk eventually. And here is the, I already have a coffee shop in the Metropolitan Park Tower. So I wanted to do more coffee. We like coffee, right? In our Lego City, we like to be caffeinated when we go to our sightseeing. But I didn't want to do just another kiosk type of thing, like a standing kiosk. So I made this kind of mobile one. I think there's a design on Instagram I saw that's very, very similar to this and inspired. I didn't know how it was built, so just judging by eye, I designed this one. So you can see your milk, you've got some creamy coffee drinks, and there's where the grinder goes and the pressure and so forth, and it's kind of plain on the back. But I think that color palette, and then you've got your, geez, you cannot see anything. There's some bags of coffee, brown, that reddish brown sack to kind of give you some place to put your cart so you can kind of back it up against something. Once you kind of turn the corner, you would go into this hanging garden, and there's probably no way I can get in there. No, but oh, not bad. Okay, you can see how these plants hang from the ceiling, and there is a giant exotic tropical plant in the center of the hallway. If you've watched my other videos, you knew I really want to try to bring that experience of nature and organicness and bring that into the city. This idea of a city being a concrete jungle is to what in academia world you would call postmodern. It's too got such a negative, cynical tinge to urban life, right? And graffiti and kind of all this type of aesthetic is bound up with that urban life, kind of this urban decay. Detroit might be a classic example of that, but that is not the vision of a city and of urban life that I'm trying to depict here in my Lego City. I want not an urban decay, not a concrete jungle, but a return of the beauty of nature together with the man-built structures. I want to kind of return man's creations back into nature, so to speak, so that we kind of see man himself as a part of nature, not something distinct from it. A little philosophical, but as you guys know me, aside from doing Lego, I write philosophy. So you can also see how that comes out in my Lego building. Over here on the other side of the building, you would see another. Oh yeah, you can see these much better here. Great. This kind of chamber is a bit larger. So here you can see how these swivel doors operate. It's very simple. It's just a bar stuck in an open stud. Really, not a big deal, but a bit effective, right? Over here you have a coat rack, which I can't find any elements that actually fit on that rack. The umbrellas don't really fit in there really well as intended. That bar, that light gray bar, four-pronged bar at the top was really expensive. It was like $10 or something just for that one element. But I really wanted it. That's how I wanted to build my coat rack. And then once I built it, I realized nothing actually fits on there. I thought the umbrellas would hang on there, but they don't. And that's a bad expectation. You would expect them to go on there. You'd expect the system of Lego to be a bit more compatible than that. And they don't even fit in that bottom ring either. I'm a bit disappointed by that. So I don't know, maybe I'd take that out of there, sell it on Bricklink, and come up with another design. I don't have any other use for that bar element. So some more succulents. Those are not my design. I think those are designed by Jamie Berard, a quite famous Lego designer in the adult fan community. If you were to continue past the, say you've already signed in, you could continue on and you could come and enjoy your drink, either from the bar on the upper levels if you wanted to come down here for more space, or if it just wasn't nice weather, or if you wanted to bring your coffee over here. So there's a chair, there's a couch. Yeah, I can't. There's a wall here. I'm trying to operator on. Not much else in there to see, right? But otherwise, you'd come up here and you'd sign in, right? There's where you would meet your receptionist. Some plants up there. And actually, I'll focus in on these plants. Let me just come in here. This is a design for a potted plant. Jeez, it's so blurry. There we go. Get some more artificial light in here. This is a design that I, while just working with the elements, stuck that in there, and I was like, wow, that actually works. Now, I don't know if anyone else has built like this before, but I've not seen it. So as far as I know, this is original, and even if somebody else has also discovered this building technique to make a potted plant, I can still call my conception original because I didn't follow anyone. I just stumbled upon it while fitting elements together. And I just think it works so well for a potted plant to use that tile with the, I think it's called a nipple with you can stick a pin in it, just putting that round brick upside down and sticking that six-stemmed element in there. And then of course you have one flower, which is going the wrong direction. It's kind of upside down compared to the others. Man, it's so blurry. Is there any better place? But even though that one flower is upside down, nobody cares, right? It's still a nice composition and definitely a nice design for a flower vase. So if I can just stick that back on there. There's two of those. Some more marketing banners in the back here. I guess the last piece to show would be the jeweler, which there's another door along the street here, which you could enter to a different stylized floor. There's a nice lamp to get all the sparkling details of your jewelry. And there's really just two pieces in there. As I've said, there's not a lot of room even for a cash register. So you can, unfortunately, I do not think I'm ever going to be able to get in there and hold this phone and show you how those rings are set in there. But there's, looks like 12 rings in a case, in a dark red case. There's 3 4x4 dark red tiles that make the edges of that. And then there's one giant jewel in a case all to itself. So that's what the jeweler, that's the extent of the jeweler. Enough to get a nice impression of a jeweler. So those are the interior features in the city, or in the hotel, sorry. You'll notice that it's probably odd that there is no staircase or elevator or anything. How the hell would you get up to the other levels, right? Well, at this stage of my building, to put a staircase in, the only building that has a staircase is the Metropolitan Park Tower. There's a spiral staircase down there. But imagine doing an elevator or a staircase. It would just take up so much room in here. And imagine a smaller building, like where the footprint is even smaller. The whole thing would become, or at least half the thing would become a staircase. Not really the way you want to use your space. It doesn't really add a lot of character. It doesn't add a lot of story to your building. It doesn't tell you anything about the environment of the building. Well, it could tell you something, but not as much as actually just spending time developing the details, right? And there's no toilets, there's nothing like that. This stuff, of course, would make it more realistic, but again, less character adding, in my opinion. So we just have to believe that as you're walking through this maze, there are some doors somewhere that lead to elevators and bathrooms and such like that. But in the public life, kind of the time you're spending and observing things inside this interior, those things don't call to your attention. Even, when you're at the mall, when you think of your experience at the mall, for example, you don't think about the bathroom experience. Usually you're shopping or you're eating at a food court or you're doing other things. So just thinking of the experience of being in a building, often the toilet and staircase are not your highlights. They can be, but often they're not. So again, they fall to the back, and I just have to make that sacrifice, right, when building, that I don't do any type of infrastructural stuff as far as staircases and elevators. If my scale was larger, if I was working in the scale of the modular buildings, perhaps. But again, to get this height that I'm looking for, none of my buildings feature a staircase. All right, that's the details of the hotel, other than the convention center. But I've tried to film it before, and it's just too dark over here, so I'm not going to try. There's a couple chandeliers in the convention hall. We won't go into those, and instead I will conclude this video here of the Crown on State, the hotel in Lego City.